See, me personally, I see narcissists as victims at some point. See, my brother-in-law who committed suicide had expressed to me when I was visiting with him in LA once. The children were playing, but he had this talk with me. He was adopted by the woman who by the man his mother was married to. This woman was who she was the way that she was, and this is where he came from. My brother-in-law, on the other hand, was very military and militant mindset. He didn't like to be out in the sun too long because he didn't want to get dark. He would cover up the back of his neck. Now, his adopted father was a darker man, from what I can remember. That couldn't have been the issue. My guess is that he didn't want the heat on his son, and he didn't want to be dual colored because he wore shorts, right? But he was very militant minded, and he was so no nonsense. This is why my nephews respected him. This is why his children respected him. This is why my niece lived by him. This is who they are. This is how they were raised. They had structure. My sister made sure that when her children were in sports, that they had everything they needed for hydration, for snacks. She would sideline. He was sidelined. He's been kicked out of the game before because he's very passionate about the game. He's very sports oriented. He did all of these. He's a jack of all trades. An extraordinary human being who talked about being stalked in the community that he worked for. The city, outside of being a veteran in the Navy. So in San Diego, we're having this conversation, excuse me, he and I. And I do believe that my sister was upstairs resting with their newest child, which would have been his first son, because he adopted my nephews when they got married. And they are from high school. They went to school together, my sister and my brother-in-law. When I was a child, he used to ride his dirt bike up and down the street all the time, back and forth to other neighbors that we all knew and grew up with and were around. And I was young, I was little, and he's riding as a teenager, him on his dirt bike up and down, zooming up and down the streets. And then all of it changed because we all moved and everything happened. And so now we're here. So we're having this conversation. Excuse me. And he tells me one thing that he hated. One thing that he absolutely hated, but he loved his adopted father. He loved that man. One thing that he hated is that his mother spoiled him, tried to spoil him, tried to buy him. He did not like that. Joe overheard that conversation. He also studied. He was stalked. What they say happened there did not happen there. Something else happened there. He had a conversation with me a few years before at 4th of July. They weren't really partying. He liked fireworks, things that would bang in a big way. That was his thing, right? But we were there, and he had made a comment about the quickest way to kill yourself is put the gun in your mouth and shoot up. Now, people say that he died like that. I never told anyone that until I mentioned it. He was being stalked, and if being stalked can drive you to commit suicide, he was definitely being stalked.